We have arrived at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico for the running of the first ever Mexico City Grand Prix, the only time the race will use that Grand Prix name, as it will revert back to the Mexican Grand Prix from 2021 due to the fantasy era. Coming into this week, one team has been making big headlines this week. That team concerns the brand new Lamborghini team, as after 2 weeks after they confirmed Laura Chong, they have confirmed their second ever driver. They have announced that current GP2 Championship contender Rahul Patel will make his top class debut with the team in 2021, making him the first GP2 promotee to be announced. Rahul has had an amazing season in GP2, with him having a good chance of winning the GP2 title next week. He currently lies second in the GP2 Championship, 3 points behind Aaron Curtis, and his current team Uni Virtuosi have a good chance to win the team's championship as they lead it by 22 points ahead of Trident. Rahul's highest point this season came at Belgium, where after many attempts he finally took his first ever GP4 OC win, which put him right into the title fight. Rahul will be happy to know that he'll be making his top class debut in 2021, and he'll be looking to have an amazing rookie season in Lamborghini's debut season in the top class. As mentioned, he will partner alongside Laura Chong, who was confirmed 2 weeks ago to be leaving Ferrari to join their rivals Lamborghini. As for Rosetta Martinez, this could be bad news for him, as with both Red Bull and Lamborghini gone, there is a good chance that the 2018 DTM champion could be out of a drive, but we will have to wait and see. And finally, in other news, for anyone who didn't see part 2 of the Tyrion revamp announcement, it was announced by Dioka and JW97 that GP2 from 2021 will be finally changing its name to Formula 2. The reason for this change is due to the fact that the series will be having a brand new car from next season, known as the SMD ZG02LN, which is one of the cars that gets used in the GPGSL series. The finale for GP2 at Brazil, which will take place next week, will be the final time the series will be known as GP2, and it will also be the final time the 2011 GP2 car will get used in the series after 10 seasons of service. It's an exciting time for the series, and including myself, we cannot wait for 2021. And that is it for this week's edition of the GP4 OC News. The penultimate team news of the season will break at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix next week, who will be announced during to practice next week at the Yas Marina circuit. Hello everybody and welcome to the free practice session for the 2020 Mexico City Grand Prix, the third to last race of the 2020 season. We are here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. I am JW97, your usual commentator, and I'm joined today by my arch nemesis and now future Lamborghini driver Ra.
Yeah, hello everybody.
Yes, indeed. He is now a confirmed Lamborghini driver. We'll get onto that in a little bit. But as you can see, we're getting ready for the practice session, and it's going to be a dry practice session, no rain at all. So we might as well get into it, shall we? And one thing to note as well, and again, ignore the graphic again. It is not the US Grand Prix we're going to. It's a Mexico City Grand Prix we're going to. Same reason for last week, why we had the Mexican Grand Prix graphic on last week. But anyway, as we were mentioning, one thing I've got to mention as well, there is one test driver in the car for today, and that is Ruslan Protsiuk. He'll be driving for AlphaTauri today in place of Chris Chatfield. So, of course, Chatfield being lower than Kupok in the Drivers' Championship, so that's why you're going to be seeing Ruslan Protsiuk in the car for today, and he is the last booked test driver for this season. All the booked test drives would have been done after this race, and after that it will be just a request if anybody wants one for the remaining 2 races, that is, providing there's no clashes between GP2 and, of course, the top class. But anyway, we're in the garage right now, and we might as well talk about it, Ra. How do you feel now that you're a Lamborghini driver?
Pretty amazed. Never thought I would be in this position, especially before the sign-ups, and finally I'm here.
So you're hoping to do well then in your first season in 2021?
Yeah, I pretty hope I do well. Just do the best I can, and hopefully I can secure a future for the following few seasons.
Indeed, and as you can see, we've got Davey Kupok out on track first of all, and so he's going to be the first one out on track. And for clarity as well, I did put it in the stream chat, and Raw has also confirmed it to me as well. He will be using the number 10 next season. So the same number that my brother used all those seasons ago, he's now going to inherit that number from 2021. He's going to be using the number 10, so 10 and number 57 at Lamborghini next season. So it kind of cancels out a little prediction that George wrote make all the way back on Discord, because he thought that the Lamborghini seats would be revealed at the final race. Well, how wrong he was. Because 2 weeks ago, Laura Chung got confirmed, and just this week, Ra has been confirmed. It may mean bad news, though, for Rosetta Martinez, as I pointed out in the news video, because he could be out of a driver as well, as we mentioned, because Red Bull have gone. Of course, it was a bit of a huge mountain to climb for him to get that, if I'm being totally honest. But the Lamborghini seat, he still had a chance, but obviously Ra is going to be taking that seat for next season alongside Laura Chung. So we could be seeing Martinez out of a drive after this season. It has been quite a tricky season for the Filipino Ra, despite the fact that he came close to scoring points last time out.
Yep, indeed. Hasn't been the best of seasons. It's not been better than this season, but then again, anything could happen. But unfortunately, it hasn't happened for him.
Indeed so, and hello Laura, who's just joined us in the chat. You would have may have found out that your teammate has been announced, and he's in the commentary box with me right now. Do you want to say hello there, Ra?
Hello, Laura.
There's your teammate for next season, Laura. So, anyway, as we get on to the action, Davey Kupok is out on track, of course. The only main driver who's driving the AlphaTauri in this practice session, because, of course, as mentioned, Ruslan Proxiuk is in the AlphaTauri for this week. And, of course, now that you've got this, the news out of the way, Ra, your next aim now is to try and win the GP2 Championship, I imagine, next week.
Basically, yes. But then again, I don't mind if I lose this championship. It's just may the best man win, and whoever wins this one has done an incredible job.
I think Aaron said the same thing, I believe, on Twitter as well, to say may the best man win. So, yeah, that's pretty much that. Of course, we can't forget about Protsiuk and Chobot in that fight. They are still outsiders, but I think it's highly unlikely that they'll probably win it, if I'm being totally honest. Obviously, Chobot needs to get pole position in Brazil if he wants to keep his title hopes alive. And Ruslan Protsiuk, he's got to hope that Aaron Curtis doesn't get pole in Brazil next week, because otherwise he'll be out of the championship as well, along with Adam Chobot. But we've got some lap times on the board. Lopez has gone 8 tenths quicker than Kupot. Moptrin slots into second place, as now Franco Gamba goes to the top of the timing sheets with a 1 minute 18.006, goes 2 tenths quicker than his fellow Franco. Kirishima De Rosa was in 4th, but made that 5th now, because test driver Ruslan Protsiuk has gone into 3rd, made that 4th, because Carr has gone into 2nd, Griffiths has gone into 8th, Chung goes into 6th position, so some lap times going on the board as we speak. And, of course, as well, speaking of championships, we were speaking about the GP2 championship. One thing we do need to point out as well, of course, 2 things as well. Obviously, last week, you may have seen that Mercedes, of course, won the Constructors' Championship. They won a record 6th Constructors' Championship. The 4th attempt, really, for them, really, after being outpaced and taking each other out in the last 3 races, but they finally managed to achieve a record 6th Constructors title last time out in Austin, and the only thing that's left to achieve now for Mercedes is the driver's title. And of course, Franco Lopez coming into this week, he does have his first chance to win the title this week, Ra.
Yep, indeed. Could be a good chance for him, knowing what can happen, but then again, you never know. You never know.
Indeed so. Of course, I will put the criteria up for tomorrow to see what Lopez needs to do to win the championship here in Mexico. And, of course, he comes into this race, I think, if I'm not mistaken, with a 43-point lead. I could be wrong on that. I will have to double check on that. I'll have the spreadsheet up as Roke tries to have a go at one of the Williamses there, going into the stadium section, but currently getting held up. That is by Felix Sontag at this point in time. As we're speaking, their Gal went to the top of the timing sheet, so currently it's a Red Bull 1-2, and you would imagine with this sort of track, Ra, this may be the best chance that Red Bull have got to actually get a victory, get another win this season, I should say.
Yep, indeed. So far, it hasn't been the best of the season, but they have actually gotten some wins, which has been great, especially ones in the wet. And Mexico could be the track where they could win, but we'll see.
It all really depends, really, on what Mercedes have got hidden in them, because they could still nab pole position here. You will have to wait and see. And I'm just trying to clarify what the gap is actually between Lopez and Carr. So 73, 83, 93, 03. It's actually 45 points. I was wrong. It's 45 points. I don't know where I got 43 from. It's actually 45 points as I'm reading it on here. So 45 points is the gap between the pair of them going into this. And, of course, Lopez will need to outscore car tomorrow if he wants to win the championship. And as mentioned, I will be sending the criteria over to Yuri tonight, of course, along with the champion graphic, so that he can then put it up for tomorrow, and also on standby in case Lopez wins the title. So anyway, we were just briefly looking there at the test driver Ruslan Proxy. We were just mentioning there, of course, he still has a good chance. He still has a chance of winning the GP2 title, but it is a bit of a long shot, really, because he is a bit of an outsider, like Adam Chobot is. But he'll be hoping to do best as he can at the moment, because he is one of many drivers who is in contention for the Alfa Romeo seat.
Yep, indeed. I mean, anything can happen in GP2. It usually does. I mean, you've seen it with Terry Altunen when he won the GP2 championship, when he didn't lead the championship going into the final round, and all he had to do is win, I think, and I think he won that race. If I'm correct, but
Did win that race. Gamba's going a little bit wide there, but managed to keep it on the track. He was having a little bit of a lock-up moment there, but managed to keep it on the track there. But yeah, now Tiernan did win that race, and in fact, he was an outsider himself going into that race, because he found himself 22 points behind Gabriel Gomez going into that final race. And given that Gomez seemed to be off the pace in that race at Brazil, and given the pace that Taravi was showing, it was enough for him to win the championship, because he won the race and Gabriel failed to score. So a really underdog performance there from Taravi to win that GP2 title in 2015. Of course, that was the first season that Florian took over GP2 as well. And of course, we know as well that next week's GP2 race will be the final time that the series will be known as GP2, and the final time that 2011 car will be used, because of course next season a brand new car comes about for that series, and it's being renamed to Formula 2. Now, Yuri has told me several times to try and not pronounce the chassis name for that, because it is a bit of a tongue twister. So I'll keep referring to it as the OCF2 car from now on. I think it's a simpler name to get used to, because the actual name for the car is a little bit of a tongue twister. So I think I'll refer to it as the OCF2 car from next season. Yeah, so anyway, we get back to the action. Roberto Gamba, we're riding on board with right now as he makes his way through into the stadium section. Of course, trying to enjoy the final 3 races that he's having in the top class before he retires at the end of the season. And of course, that Ferrari seat is still up for grabs. As we speak right now, there are still, I believe, 6 seats left up for grabs, if I'm not mistaken. So that's that really. It'll be interesting to see who's going to nab those 6 seats in these remaining 2 races, and who's going to miss out on drives, of course. We just saw that Gal was actually 26 thousandths down on his personal best in the first sector, but it looks like he's also getting held up now by the Williams in front. Now, of course, me and Ra were actually doing commentary yesterday, of course, for the Formula E race in Dubai. We've had to pre-record that, of course, because this weekend we have Formula 1 in Imola, and of course there is a sprint race happening on the Saturday. So it is happening. It's going to be premiered on the Saturday, but at an earlier time of 1 p.m. BST due to the F1 sprint race at Imola. So be on the lookout for that one. And well, it's fair to say that I was quite breathless after that race, it's fair to say. So because I hadn't really done I mean, obviously I've commentated before on races, specifically GP2 races, and you'll be hearing my voice next week in the GP2 finale as always, but not to the point where I had to do main commentary for a race. And it's fair to say I was completely breathless. I mean, I did do one, I think, at Montreal the other season, but I wasn't really that breathless last season. That one I was really breathless, really, because I really had to get a good set of pipes out for that one. So that was that, really. So anyway, it's George Roque we're now riding on board with, as you can see, as he finds himself 1/10 down on Gal in the third sector, and in fact a 10th down on his personal best. And in fact, I would argue, looking at that, I think George may have had a better first sector there than what Mikolas Gal did, judging from his depth panel. So it seems that Gal's weakest sector is the first sector. I think that is to be expected, really, because the Mercedes does have an advantage down the straight, of course, compared to the Honda power, although it is possible for a Honda to get by a Mercedes powered car. But you look at the speeds, of course, the Mercedes does have the advantage down the straight compared to a Honda. And same cannot be said, though, if you've got a Renault or Ferrari engine this season. But anyway, as Lopez goes around the first few corners on the racetrack, and the man who could, of course, win the championship this week at here at Mexico, Of course, it's the only time it will be known as the Mexico City Grand Prix, because we are reverting back to the Mexican Grand Prix name from next season due to the fantasy era, and because this is obviously the last season of the real life era, we don't need to follow real life anymore from next season. So anyway, Protsu going through the first 3 corners now then, the AlphaTauri test driver, currently also with a slight chance of winning the GP2 title next week, but he's got a outside over, as I mentioned, as De Rosa is actually trying to overtake one of the Red Bulls, in fact, and looks like he's going to actually complete the move, that Red Bull being Miklos Gal, as somebody was actually coming into the pits in front. In fact, both of them have also got both not both Renaults, both Williamses in front, weird looking Renaults, Joe. But anyway, and again, Roke finds himself 1/10 down in the first sector, and again for 0.114 off personal best in the first sector, so that just suggests that Roke was actually 14 thousandths quicker in the first sector compared to Miklos Gal, as Galloway just overtook one of the Manners there into the first corner. And Galloway, it's fair to say the last couple of races, right, have been a little bit rough for him, it's fair to say. Been involved in a few incidents, especially in Japan, where he obviously binned the points finish.
Yep, indeed, and I think he would be very frustrated by that on himself as well. Kind of cost Renault some points there.
Indeed so. Well, speaking of Renault, one person who finally got some points last time out was Evan Byrne. Obviously, before the race began at the USA, he retired from 7 of the last 8 races, and but finally he was able to score some points last time out in Kota, finishing in 7th place, and he'll be looking to ensure that he continues to finish in races in these remaining few races of the season, because it has been quite a tricky season for Evan Byrne. It's fair to say, and you would have noticed they have kept that sponsor on that they had from the last race. Evan saying that they will keep that sponsor for the remaining of the season, the AEW sponsor that is. Meanwhile, we are looking at Kirishima De Rosa, who I thought actually overtook Miklos Gal, but it looks like he actually hadn't. Is he going to overtake him this time by? And, well, ooh, that was very close for comfort there. And, well, very close indeed. I don't think Miklos will take too kindly to that one, as we're going to take a look at a replay of this, in fact. So we're going to ride on board with Miklos Gal to just see how close he was to the side pod of Kirishima De Rosa as we make our way through into the first corner. And that was too close for comfort there,
Yep, indeed, very close to comfort. And I'm glad it's not during the race, because that would have ended really badly for Miklos Gal and would have ended his championship hopes.
Indeed so, as now Gal was trying to have a go there at De Rosa, but it didn't quite work out. We just saw there that Gomez had an improvement, but he remains in 8th. Byrne also improves, but stays in 16th. Wellows, meanwhile, improves a bit more. He goes up into 5th position there, so he gets himself in front of Jake Galloway. So Wellows up into P5, and of course, he'll want to forget what happened at the United States Grand Prix last time out, because obviously he got took out on the first lap, being involved in a lap 1 collision with Laura Chung and Gabriel Gomez. So he'll want to forget that one straight away. And this track is also known for having turn 1 crashes at the start. As speaking of Chung, she actually gets up into 3rd position in the Ferrari there. In fact, getting herself in front of both Mercedes. So that's a pretty impressive performance in practice so far for Laura Chung. Speaking of Ferrari, Roberto Gamba is trying to find a way through on Rosetta Martinez into the stadium section, but I had to back out of it there. As we look at Gabriel Gomez, who just made a little error going into the stadium section. Probably the best part of the track, really, from a fan's perspective, it's fair to say. As meantime, Roland Motrin gets up into 11th position, only 9th and 11th so far for all the 2 Racing Points, as the team enter the last 3 races known as Racing Point before they rebrand as Aston Martin. As meantime, Gomez was up on his personal best. Is he going to improve? And nope, loses time in the last sector, mainly because of that mistake we saw going into the stadium section. In fact, he looks like he's also going to try and overtake Roberto Gamba going into the first corner, as we now look at George Roque in the Racing Point. And Roque, of course, had a pretty good race last time out in the United States Grand Prix, finishing in 5th position, but it wasn't as great as Chris Chatfield, who came so close to getting a podium last time out. Well,
yep, indeed, very close to Chatfield. I think Roque will be frustrated on how on earth did he not get past De Rosa within the first few laps, because he completely struggled to get past him before the pit stops. Kind of cost him.
De Rosa put in a defensive masterclass, really, on a load of cars that were behind. But as soon as George Roque came into the pits, of course, Gal was able to basically start the trend, really, of overtaking De Rosa in that race. Followed then by Chris Chatfield, who, of course, as mentioned, nearly went on to take that podium. Could it be argued, potentially, that him being stuck behind Roque for that long potentially cost him the podium, perhaps? If he got past him before Roque got into the pits, like a few laps before he went into the pits, could we have said that Chris may have got a podium that way, potentially?
No, because looking at Gal's pace, even with because just a reminder, Gal did have to pit for repairs as well. Had to pit for an extra stop, so he would have been very likely not to get the podium. But yeah, I think Gal's pace was pretty strong for Chris Chatfield to deal with, and I think Gal would have still gotten the podium. Chatfield had nothing else to do and just settled fourth.
Yeah, probably. So anyway, hello Daniel Fraser who's just joined us in the chat. Hello Daniel there. And of course, Daniel has been putting in some good performances in the last couple of races. Of course, scored points in Suzuka and had a decent performance in Austin, probably the best the Haas could have managed around there that weekend. So putting in a decent performance as he's doing everything in his power, of course, to try and save his top class career. Of course, there is still one more Haas seat still to be confirmed. Of course, we know that Amelia Wilson is going to be the one that's going to be replacing the retiring Dudu Kirby from next season. And whether Daniel Fraser will still be at the team next season is going to be another question. It'll be interesting to see if he will still be there and whether he will be announced at Haas within these next 2 races. Of course, we've only got 2 races left after this one, 2 more episodes of the team news. As meantime, we've got this train of cars that's for me right behind the man. I believe that was Rosetta Martinez we're looking at. Meanwhile, we're looking at Jake Galloway as he looks to enjoy his final 3 races at Renault before he heads off to the prancing horse, that being a Ferrari next season. Of course, still not confirmed yet as to who will be his teammate at Ferrari next season. We do know that Ferrari will be having a brand new lineup in 2021 as a result of Roberto Gamba announcing his shop retirement at the Malaysian Grand Prix, and of course the fact that Laura Chung is moving to Lamborghini in 2021. So that's that. As speaking of Roberto Gamba, you had to do a little bit of defending there from the Alfa Romeo of Gabriel Gomez, another man who's under pressure to perform, it's fair to say, given that his future at Alfa Romeo could be on the line, especially with all the competition that's surrounding Alfa Romeo at the moment. Of course, Gomez still has a good chance of being retained at Alfa Romeo, but he'll need to keep up. He'll need to try and put in some good performances if he wants to be retained for next season. As we look at Jake Galloway now then, who's just coming around the final 2 corners on the racetrack, as I think that long right-hander just after that right-hander, when you come out the stadium section, they're classed as 2 separate corners, really. One of them is actually called Mansell Corner, in fact, which I believe is the one which is just before they go around half of the Peratala. So, if we have a look at Gabriel Gomez now then, as they now make their way towards the staging section. Again, Roberto Gamba and Gabriel Gomez still stuck behind the manor, but Gomez is coming into the pits this time by, so they ain't going to have to worry. So he isn't going to have to worry for too long. And in fact, it looks like Martinez is also coming in as well. And it looked like maybe Gamba was also jinking that way as well. So maybe all 3 of them are going into the pits. We're looking at Felix Sontag now. Then he was up on his personal best in the first sector, although it did look like he had a little bit of a wiggle going into the S's there. And as a result, he now finds himself down on his personal best in the middle sector. Currently last at the moment. And but I think Felix is just basically enjoying the rest of the season, knowing full well, of course, that he will still be at Williams for next season, as will Jamie Griffiths. Williams retaining their lineup for another season. As now we look at Jake Galloway again, who has got one of the manners behind. Around the section of corners now then, as they make their way into the stadium section. From the left and then into the right we will go now then, as Jake Galloway will be completing his lap, but it doesn't look like he's up on his personal best. Galloway currently 7th at the moment in this practice session, as he now makes his way onto the pit straight, and no improvement there for him at the moment, as we have just over 11 minutes to go in this practice session. So at the moment, this is what the leaderboard currently looks like then. Miklos Gal top with Franco Gamba in 2nd, Laura Chung 3rd, followed by Amar Kar 4th, Franco Lopez in 5th, followed by Joseph Willows in 6th, Jake Galloway in 7th, who just had a little bit of a wiggle there going through into the second part of the chicane there. Galloway in 7th, Proxiuk has gone up into 8th now, so 8th goes to Ruslan Proxiuk, 9th for Kirishima De Rosa, 10th Rogue with Gomez in 11th, followed by Motrin 12th, Roberto Gamba in 13th, Cupot 14th, Byrne 15th, Federi 15th, Byrne 16th, then Fraser 17th, Griffiths 18th, Kirby 19th, Wilson in 20th, Martinez in 21st, and Sontag in 22nd position. As we look back now to Jake Galloway, seems that the auto camera is a little bit obsessed with Galloway today, it's fair to say. It seems to be a recurring pattern with the auto camera. It seems to be obsessed with one car every race. I'm not sure why that is. But meanwhile, Kirby improves but remains in 19th position, not able to gain any places, and still just over 3/10 behind Jamie Griffiths at the moment. Meanwhile, Sontag, again, not able to improve, 1/10 off his personal best, as he's got Laura Chung and one of the Red Bulls behind. Not sure which Red Bull it is, as they make their way into the first corner now then. As through turn 2 and 3, as Laura is now right on the back of Felix Sontag in this session. As now they will approach the back straight before heading towards the left-hander, and Chung is actually coming into the pits this lap. And is Chung going to make the move on the Williams into this left-hander? And she most definitely will. So Laura Chung, although she's coming into the pits, getting some overtaking practice here in this session as Sontag continuing around. He's been on them tyres for what has been 12 laps now, it says on the def panel. So he's been on the tyres for 12 laps. And I haven't seen him come into the pits once during that time. So start is now through the right, left, and now through these S's as he's got the Red Bull right behind him now. Then not sure which Red Bull it is because both of them are out on track at the moment. And so now they make their way down towards the stadium section. Through the right hander he goes, and now towards the sea of crowd that's here at the former baseball stadium. As now they go into, this is Mansell corner right here as we just see Chung peel off into the pits, and then through the second part of Perlatala. And now Sontag will cross the line. It's not going to be an improvement because he obviously got overtaken by Chung on that lap. And yep, no improvement for him there then. Will the Red Bull behind get past him? I'm not sure. As they make their way down the pit straight now then before making their way towards turn number 1. So through turn 1 we go, and only Sontag they're using a bit of curb, and I believe it might be Franco Garba in fact that was behind.
No.
Well, it says Garma was in the pits, so I presume it was Garma because that was that indicator came up while Sontag just came out of the final corner, and there was a Red Bull behind. So I think it may have been Franco Garma that was behind. So now we look at Kirishima De Rosa, currently finding himself in 9th position. As meantime, David Kupak improves but remains in 14th. As Willows improves to actually split in between the two Mercedes, goes up into 5th. As Federi nearly went into the wall there. Luckily managed to stop it, but it held up a Mercedes and his teammate Gabriel Gomez there. And well, that was too close for comfort, Ra.
Yep, indeed. Must have taken a lot of curb and then just locking up and just managing to save it, just avoiding the wall.
Indeed, as Federi now then is going to cross the line. No improvement for him. As a result of that lock-up, Fraser improves. He gets up into 16, gets in front of Evan Byrne at the moment. Byrne currently in the pits, and will Gomez now actually get by on the Mercedes as a result of his teammates' mistake that we saw going into Mansell there? Don't think he will because I think the Mercedes was just about to hang it around the outside. And it's actually Miklos Gal, so you were actually right the first time, Ra. I do apologise. And in fact, speaking of Gal, he just made a little lock-up there going into the into Mansell corner. But I think he's now going to try and line up Felix for a pass down on the pit straight, is he? If he's close enough. I think he is close enough for a pass. He is close enough. I think he might try and have a go into the first corner. As meantime, Roberto Garma gets up into the top 10. So up into P10 goes Roberto Garma, and Gal gets through Sontag pretty simply there into the first corner, as he currently tops the session by just under a tenth ahead of his teammate Franco Garma. As they now make their way down this back straight, is now right on board with Dudu Kirby, who just had a little bit of a moment there going into the first part of the S's there. Of course, that's where, in real life, Sebastian Vettel had his little crash there in 2015 when they first came back to Mexico. Kupak again improves, but now finds himself under a second behind Gal and still in 14th. Could that be his future teammate, though, potentially, Kupak? Because there's still a debate as to who's going to be Gal's teammate at AlphaTauri next season. It's probably more likely going to be either Kupak or Gal. Even though Chobot is a championship contender in GP2, it looks highly unlikely that Chobot is going to be at that team next season. It looks like it will be either Kupak or Chatfield that will partner alongside Gal. And it's fair to say in the last few races, of course, as we mentioned, Chatfield has actually been putting in some good performances, probably better than Kupak.
Yep, so far. And Kupak's not having the best of times after his podium in Malaysia, so yeah, how the tables have turned at the moment.
Whether he will still be at the team next season is going to be another question. Of course, Kupak does have a backup like Chatfield. He's, of course, got Alfa Romeo as his number 2 choice. And he's a long list of contenders for Alfa Romeo, it's fair to say. As we saw Lopez coming out of that chicane there, just having a little bit of a moment as he's actually stuck behind one of the Alfa Romeos. In fact, I think he's the one in the Alfa Romeo sandwich, if I'm not mistaken, because I think that's Gomez behind in the mirror you can just about see there. But over 6 minutes to go then in this session as De Rosa just makes his way through the section of corners. Through the last 2 corners on the racetrack we go. And De Rosa now then is going to cross the line now then. And let's see what De Rosa can do. And he does not improve. Remains in P number 9 at this point in time. 5th and 9th so far for the two McLarens, as De Rosa makes his way down towards the first corner, the first 3 corners on the racetrack, through the right, and then the left, and then the right, as we look at Felix Sontag now. Then he's 1.8 seconds down on Gal in the second sector, sorry, and still not pitting, surprisingly enough. He's having a very long run in that Williams. I think that's actually his teammate in front, speaking of a Williams, and it is. Griffiths is just in front of him at the moment. Through the left and right-handers then, through the stadium section, go the 2 Williams drivers. And now through the final 2 turns we go, and Sontag will finish off his lap quite soon now then. Making his way onto the pit straight, and across the line will go Felix Sontag. And I don't think it's going to be an improvement, and no it isn't. He remains where he is at this point in time. Gal is now in the pits now then, so it's only Franco Gamba who's just roaming around. In fact, he's gone back out on the track as Franco Gamba. As Sontag makes his way through into the first 3 corners for the right, then the left, and then into the right-hander we go, as we now look at Kirishima De Rosa now then, just making his way through the left and right-hander now then on the racetrack. Through the final 2 turns we will go. So into the second to last corner, and then roaming around the final corner we will go. And De Rosa's not on an improvement, and I don't expect him to improve either on this lap. De Rosa crosses the line, no improvement for the Polish driver, soon to be Italian of course, from next season, as he makes his way down the pit straight before making his way towards the first few corners on the racetrack, with just over 4.5 minutes to go in this practice session. As we ride back on board with Sontag, as meantime Motrin has got up into 4th, in fact, so only 5th and 6th at the moment for the 2 Mercedes drivers. And so P4 now then for Roland Motrin, as Chung is currently still in 3rd place at this point in time. It's now pushed Roberto Gama, in fact, outside of the top 10. Sontag now then comes up towards final 2 corners on the racetrack now then. Through the final turn and onto the pit straight will go the German driver, as now he will complete his lap, and it's not going to be an improvement, and nope, stays way off at the moment. And finally he's coming into the pits this lap, so he's finally done that long run that we've been seeing from Sontag in this session now then, as Sontag will make his way towards the first few corners on the racetrack. As we now look at the AlphaTauri test driver, Ruslan Protsuk is up on his personal best. Meantime, Evan Byrne has made a big improvement. He gets up into 5th. Protsuk goes up to 9th, so that pushes De Rosa outside the top 10. So Protsuk now then up into P9, the AlphaTauri test driver, as bit of contact there between Roberto Gamba and Felix Sontag. Sontag coming back into the pits this lap, so a little bit of a love tap there from Roberto Gamba, as they just come out of that double right-hander now then, as they've got, I think that's Franco Gamba in the background, because I think it's a purple helmet on that Red Bull, so I do think it's the other Gamba that's behind. Once again, the 2 Gambas together, like they were at the US Grand Prix before, of course, Gamba retired. In the meantime, Amar Kar has gone to the top of the timing sheet, so now we're seeing some representation for Mercedes. Kar goes fastest by 0.5 of a second, at 1 minute 17.396. So he now goes to the top, ending the Red Bull 1-2 that we had for most of this session. As now De Rosa just goes around the double right-hander now then, or making his way through into the S's section. So through the left, right, and then into the left and right-hander we will go. Now into the section of corners now then, as Roberto Gamba does not improve, and that was mainly because of the hold-up he had with Felix Sontag, and now it's allowed his cousin Franco to get a nice bit of slipstream from him to start another lap. And he's just on the right-hand side. Will Franco complete the move? And the answer to that is yes. Now, for anybody wondering, because I didn't mention the tyres we're using for the second race in a row will be the soft tyres here at Mexico City. So whether we'll have to wait and see what the degradation is like around here at Mexico City, as Car tries to find a way through, and one of the Haas is there. And in fact, he's coming into a big queue of cars. He's coming up, but he's coming into the pits this lap to end this session, of course, because we have just over 2 minutes to go in this session, as Car will be heading back into the pits this lap. As we not allow at Roberto Gamba, who of course got overtaken by Franco, and he just made a little mistake there going into the S's. And speaking of Gambas, Franco's also made a mistake as well. So pretty much family tradition there, as Gamba made a very big mistake there, got it all crossed up in the S's section there. And we're going to take a look at a little replay of that, Ra.
Yep, indeed. Kind of around the curb on the AstroTurf, then locks up and just goes a bit wide.
Yeah, indeed, and now Roberto finds himself on the back of him again, and well, that's that really. Franco Gamba's lap ruined as a result of that little lock-up, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's had some flat spots on there as well. But we've just got 1.5 minutes to go. We're going to ride on board with the rest of the drivers now then to conclude the end of the practice session, as Griffiths is now going to cross the line. No improvement for him, as we now look at Franco Gamba. Across the line he will go now then in the Red Bull. I think he'll give himself 2 flying laps, and he will do indeed. Roberto does not improve either, as here comes Evan Byrne now then, just going around the final corner, currently finding himself in 6th position, as the Irishman now then will come across the line. And can he improve? No, he can't. Remains where he is. Laura Chong crossed the line, currently 4th, stays in 4th. Ruslan Proxiuk having had a good session, stays in 9th position. Here comes Joseph Willows, who's currently in 7th, coming around the final turn in the McLaren. Obviously 3 races to go for him to try and continue his winning record, otherwise the streak will be over if he doesn't get a win in these final 3 races. He'll have to have some kind of luck for that to happen, to be honest with you, given that he's driving a McLaren. Here comes George Roke, just going around the final corner, as Roke is now going to cross the line, and no improvement for him, stays where he is. Here comes Roland Motrin, who's just coming around the final corner, and Motrin will now come across the line now then, and the Hungarian does not improve, stays where he is. Here comes Gabriel Gomez, stays where he is for the moment, as we now look at Andrea Vaderi, who is currently behind one of the Williamses, and so we've got just under 30 seconds left on the clock. So now coming around the hairpin, and now into the final 2 turns they will now go, as soon as they go around the section of corners, that is. So into Mansell corner, as the Williams in front is going into the pits, that being Jamie Griffiths. Through the final turn, 10 seconds left, 9, 8, and then 7, 6, a bit of a slow count here because of the pit straight. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Checkered flag is out, and that's the end of the session. I do believe it was Daniel Fraser, wasn't it? That was last across the line. No, Dudu Kirby. I do apologise, because Fraser is in the pit, so Kirby's last one across the line. Sontag didn't improve on his last lap there. We're now looking at Laura Chung. Across the line she will go. No improvement for her. Proxiuk crossed the line. No improvement for him. As we now look at Joseph Willows, who's just coming around the final 2 turns on the racetrack now then. Down the pit straight he will go, and Willows across the line he will go in the McLaren. No improvement, as Gal doesn't improve either, as the checkered flag man has got his flags all mixed up, because for some reason he's waving a yellow flag rather than a checkered flag. A typical Grand Prix 4 for you. As we now look at Roland Motrin coming around the final 2 turns on the racetrack, he will go. Now heading down the pit straight will go the Hungarian, and Motrin is going to cross the line, and he does not improve, stays where he is. Here comes Gabriel Gomez, cross the line, stays where he is, as Andrea Vaderi gets it all crossed up through the S's there, as these are the last 2 cars to do a lap, in fact, and it looks like Vaderi and Kirby are just holding each other up on this last lap, maybe trying to slipstream each other in this session. Now then, through the stadium section, we will now go into the hairpin, through the left, into the right, and then into the final two corners. Now then we will go into the second to last corner, and now round in the final corner will go Andrea Vaderi to finish off his final lap of practice. Down the pit straight and across the line will go Andrea Vaderi, and he doesn't improve, and nor does Dudu Kirby. They stay where they are, and that's practice done with Armar Car at the top, Mikos Gal second, and Franco Gamba in third. So what do you make of that session overall, Ra?
Interesting session. Well, at the moment with Lopez down the field at the moment, but his practice, we'll see what happens going into qualifying.
Indeed so. Well, we're just going to take a brief pause for a moment, and then we'll come back with a fresh stream for qualifying. But in the meantime, I've been JW97, he's been Ra, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a bit.